It's really, truly glorious to see your creation rising out of the water, ready to go. This is Project Salamis. It is a one-to-one recreation of a Salamis from Gundam, but it turned into a Magellan due to its sheer size and weaponry that I ended up adding to it when I was done, as well as the extra armor plating. Right now I'm going to walk up to the bridge while I talk about my rules for creating a ship. It's not like I'm going to save right now. So first rule, the ship has to be capable of being deployed in the campaign and being usable as a campaign vessel. That means that I have to be able to put this ship into campaign mode and use it, and it win fights. That is extremely difficult. Second, the ship must be entirely accessible. That means it has to be able to be accessed from every room by your Rambot without needing his jump packs. I'm having a little trouble with that ladder because that ladder just had to be put in an inconvenient place due to armor plating, but we're working on it. So as you can see, I've actually taken the time to make the stairs all the way up. And when we get to the top, we're going to see everything. The third thing is the ship must be constructed around a theme. Either the ship must be a recreation of another vessel, or the ship must have some theme to it, such as cram cannons, or plasma, or most creative use of a defensive laser. Just something about it has to be themed. And now we're up on the bridge. Now I realize I could have put more decorations in, but I chose not to. And you can see just how large this ship truly is. As a one-to-one recreation of a Salamis, it's massive. Absolutely massive. And we can even look off the back here, including the rear laser turret. So, with that in mind, my last rule for creation of the ship, it must be practical for its purpose. Those are my 4 rules. So practical for its purpose, this is designed to fight godly enemies as an airship and also go into space. Now currently I have the hover set to 180 meters, and it's currently hovering at 177. That's just where it's sitting. This thing can go all the way up if it wants to. If I tell it to go up, it will go. I can access every section of the ship via Rambot. I can access all of the turrets. I can access every part of it. And we're going to go over the build from beginning to end. It is so pretty. You can download this in the description of this if that's all you came here for. But I would appreciate a like on the video before we get started, as I spent like 18 hours on this damn thing, and holy shit, it kicks ass. Anyway, so I revealed this on stream after I've been working on it for a total of 18 hours to build one vehicle. But I did, in fact, build one massive vehicle. So this is a one-to-one recreation of a Salamis from the Gundam universe. And we ended up calling it a Magellan for obvious reasons. So I'm showing you this, and I'm going to show you where I'm going to base it on. So someone else, who is Japanese, did already make a Salamis. What's wrong with his? For a start, the price is 800,000. Turn the AI off so it stops trying to go up. It has no armor. This is alloy, and it's one layer. So I'm like, where's all the cost coming from? Because lasers are usually a cheap system. Oh. His energy production is entirely reliant on RTGs. To give you a comparison of hull size, this compared to this, You can see the width is much larger. This is just the frame of the hull. We haven't even got to the real hull yet. So this is just the frame. The fuck am I thinking? I've lost my mind! Anyway, this is just the frame. And just the frame costs $80,000. So let's start going through each phase of construction. I'll go over the features of the ship and how I went about building this vessel, as well as an update for how the campaign is going at the end of the video. So this is phase 2. I have filled in the gaps in most of the hull except for the rear, because the rear is going to be a very challenging section, and I want to have the option of extending the rear much easier in the event I have not allotted enough internal space for my intentions. As you can see, this is $130,000 for this hull piece. It should be noted that down in the description, not only is there the Patreon to support the channel, $1. Seriously, I just need $1. But there is also a link to the Steam Workshop to download this ship for yourself when it's completed. I'm sure I've done some things that are inefficient. I'm sure I've done some things that are wrong. I'm sure I could have added more decorations, but we're getting there. Anyway, let's get into phase 3. So this is phase 3. We have completely filled in the hull. After determining that I did in fact have enough space for everything I wanted and planning it out, we've also now started the skeleton for the superstructure. It's very important that you start this skeleton early so you can figure out where your superstructure is going and how it's going to go down. In this case, I've got the skeleton for the superstructure, I got the super firing parapet for the biggest gun that's going on the ship, and I've got the general idea of where I want things. It's also starting to look like a Salamis from Gundam, see on screen. Starting to look like one of those ships. Now we're going to get into the next phase, because this phase isn't terribly interesting. You're just starting to see the ship come together. Phase 4, the price has doubled. We're up to $300,000 cost. What you probably can see from phase 4 is no real huge changes yet. Except for I've put on the ion engines. The initial ion engines. I want to emphasize initial ion engines here. And these are just the first pieces of the engines. I still have more that have to go on. Because this is just to support this. It still does not have fuel or engines to power said ion engines. And further, it still does not have extra pieces to work with. Lastly, as a part of this phase, you'll notice some columns sticking out of the hull. This is initially where I think I want to put turrets. So when I'm putting the hull together, I can figure out how to arrange the hull in a way to support these turrets. And if I can't support these turrets, then I know to remove them and consolidate them. But this is initially where I want to put turrets. The shorter ones represent point defense turrets, while the longer, larger ones represent main battery turrets. Or in the middle range ones, like the ones up here, represent a secondary battery. So up here, back here, you see secondary. And then down here on the side, you see point defense weapons. And then up here, you see main battery. Now, let's get into phase 4. This is actually phase 4.5. At this point, we've added on what I call the glass. Any sections of the ship that you've already built, I haven't finished the superstructure up here yet, but down here at the bottom of the superstructure, I tend to go ahead and put the glass in, because this starts helping me with the internals. So if I want a deck here, that means that this has to be flat. And there has to be a door here to access the deck. So we're here for stage 6. I am not in build mode anymore. This is actually flying on its own. So stage 6 is where we start getting complicated, because we went from 300,000 to almost $1 million cost. And you're like, holy shit, that's a jump. So we're going to go over stage 6 in depth now. First off, the entire hull is now armored, top to bottom. Temporary accommodations have been made for ammunition, PIDs, the AI system, which also in the description, also if you download this, you can just download this for the Lua code. Because this is how I guide my missiles for this thing. And they never miss. Screw your distractions, your distraction sticks. Say hello to missiles that don't have that kind of guidance, and you can't fool them. But we do have a set of large missiles up here, a total of 8. And then beyond that, on the outside, so we have the large missile launchers there. We have 2 sets of medium missile launchers. They are all rigged to different missile controllers. This is to cut down on the cost and the space the missiles use. You will notice the missile controllers are also all contained in rubber. This is to prevent EM damage from knocking the missiles out, and they are separated by this large chunk of spaced armor here in order to ensure that something hitting on this side doesn't bleed through and hit on this side as well. Further, you see this massive hunk of rubber here is actually just all of the missile controllers and missile systems and Lua receivers for these forward missiles. And to show you just how these missiles work, we're going to turn on God mode. And we're going to spawn something I know that has distraction sticks, a stronghold. And then I'm going to lock onto the stronghold, point at it, and fire. And not a single round is going for its distraction sticks. Not one. Screw your distraction, sir. And this Lua code also works for torpedoes. You just have to remove the minimum altitude requirement. But not a single round will go for those distraction sticks, ever. I've started adding some of the decorations for the different deck levels on the lower deck. We have filled in the upper superstructure, including where the main bridge is going to go. You will notice I temporarily have helium pumps on the ship. When we are done, they will be gone, because a ship of this size using pumps drastically lags out your game. So when I'm done, those pumps will be gone. Then you're going to notice the hardened armor I've already put in, and that is to protect these massive steam engines. Each one of these steam engines outputs 200,000 engine power. We have 4 of them. Further, we have what I call primary electric engines. These are the massive turbines here that are using the default pattern of the bowline turbine. I just find this is just easier to use a lot of the time, and it works pretty damn well. I have considered making a large turbine, but I haven't yet. I probably should for something of this size. Further, up here we have temporary ammunition storage, temporary PIDs to make this thing function and work, temporary AI for testing the Lua code. The AI actually hasn't been programmed yet. It has no idea what the fuck it's doing or what it is. That's intentional because I want my ships to be manually pilotable. That means you, the player, can take control. That's one of my, picky rules. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, you need to be able to navigate the ship on your own as Rambot. It needs to be ready for the campaign. The player has to be able to control it. And it has to be a reasonable price for what you're getting. By the time we're done, however, I intend for this thing to be able to fight at altitude, broadsiding, or in space, pointing its nose at you. Now for Phase 7, we're over a million materials now, because we're making a 1-to-1 scale ship. The first part of Phase 7 was deciding final turret configuration by building a single turret without any armor to see how big it is. And compare it for what I want. These are 500mm dual rail guns. 2 entirely separated guns, each firing with the same statistics, each doing the same thing, each of them function the same way. Presently, this railgun is still being worked on, so it's not going to show that its functionality is working properly, but when we get to the final ship build, they will show that they are actually working correctly, because they're kind of spilling over. Further, seeing the size of this gun tells me I can put one gun here, and then we're going to be putting secondary batteries here instead of primary batteries. And then we're going to put the main mega battery back here in front of this bridge component. We've added locations for additional point defense weapons on the side here in front of the sensor bridge slash traffic. It's a traffic control center for aircraft. And we've added secondary batteries back, point defense batteries back here. And I have also, you'll notice these little bumps on the side. I've started adding steering engines. so the ship can turn or decelerate, or go backwards if it so chooses. Lastly, we added the wings onto the bottom that are on a Salamis. We haven't colored anything yet, and we've added a significant number larger of ion thrusters and added their primary armor components. So now you won't be able to shoot at them from unless you were directly under us, and further, they have armor plating under here to prevent over penetrations from hitting multiple engines, as well as to kind of shield from shrapnel. Half. Probably wondering what the half is for. So at this phase, we have made sure the ship can fly on its own. As you can see, it rising out of the briny deep entirely by itself. I have started making the holes in the hull for the turrets. And I have finished most of the armor component for one turret. So I get an idea of about how much space it needs. Now, this isn't the final armor configuration because you can clearly see into that turret. I'm just trying to figure out spacing. The final armor configuration will be vastly different than what you're seeing here. This is just so I can get the spacing down and get the weight down. So let's move into actual Phase 8. Welcome to Phase 8. So one of the things you'll notice is that I'm not using the automatic lift with the build mode where you can suspend the ship, and that's because I want to make sure the ship is still flying as I keep mounting more and more shit on it. So, knowing that this is the weight of the turret, this is the actual final turret configuration. For this forward turret, you'll notice that the under armor here is kind of sparse. That's intentional. That's so this turret can rotate. It is a weak point. There's not a lot I can do about it, but you would have to either hit here with a fragmentation that bounces into here to get in here, or you would have to shoot from underneath the turret and get a lucky shot in order to hit the internals. Back here, we've gone with, it's now $1.5 million, which is an extremely expensive ship, but when you're making 1-to-1 scale, what are you expecting? But we've gone with 2 plasma turrets. And these plasma turrets are configured to use 31 charges per shot and to fire in single round bursts. Flip over to the testing from the live stream for a moment. Yeah, that's what that's doing. Through 5 layers of heavy armor, just annihilates it. No questions asked. Up here, we've added the sensor wings that go on, you know, those long sweeping wings that go on the back of the ship. Further, you'll notice a lot more turning engines and maintenance engines for going up and down, left and right have been added to help control the ship better. Remember that when you're building a ship this size, you want to make sure you have redundancy for everything, so this ship is incredibly heavily over-engined. As a matter of fact, in order to disable her, you have to knock out about 35 to 40% of the engines underneath the ship without knocking huge chunks of armor off. Overall, I want to make this ship about where you have to kill 50% of the engines while in gravity in order for her to fall out of the sky, and where you have to kill 80% of the engines from space to do it. But we've really started, you know, engineering it up. This is Phase 9. Phase 9, we've started sectioning off sections for heavy armor. And we've added Big Bertha. This is a quad cram cannon turret of nearly identical stats. It fires roughly every 13.23 seconds and delivers a massive, massive shell. Each shell possessing over 8,000 total hit point, 8,000 to 9,000 total hit points, and delivering a whopping 15,000 damage. I've also made holes in the armor for where I'm putting turrets. And we've made the ammunition compartment. We're going to get into internals. Made the ammunition and the primary material storage compartments actually exist and feasible. What I like to do with my ammunition compartments is I'll show you here. The ammo is separated by a layer of heavy armor on all sides and also covered by a layer of heavy armor. Further, all of the turrets are covered by heavy armor components, and if they are suspended in air, that is a chunk of heavy armor holding them up to ensure that if this, for some reason, becomes detached, This turret just doesn't fall away. You have to destroy its internals. Same thing with the plasma turrets. They are reinforced with layers of heavy armor. And I've added in bulkheads! Yes, bulkheads to contain damage between sections. Lastly, up here with the missile turrets, we have made it traversable. You can go all the way right now to just under the top of the hull. Later, we're going to be adding the exit in this room. But right now, I've just made it where you can get up here. So one of the things I like doing as I'm going about the ship is knowing that I'm going to make the ship where you can walk through it. I like to make it where that's already possible. Further, because this is supposed to be a spaceship, I also do this on submarines. Every section that you could walk in is airlocked. So you open an outer door to open the other door to get in. This is to kind of represent the crew avoiding decompressions. So that if a chamber is breached and say you had a live crew on here, they would open the outer door, get into the airlock, close it, and then open the other door to not breach the other section. Further, here in the back of the ship, we have started mapping out what we're going to use the rear of the ship for. This is a very oddly shaped space. Many ships are not uniformly shaped. This is a very oddly shaped space. This is probably going to be mostly storage and extra turrets. You may have noticed I'm putting turrets back here. Yep, that decision got made at this point where we're adding turrets to the back of the ship back here for point defense and secondary battery. Down here in the bowels of the ship, I've added the compression compartment so that in the event you penetrate through the engines, there is a separate compartment here for spaced armor before you arrive here. Further, it allows a person to get around and access the engine rooms. Up next, in addition to this, you'll notice these large rubber rooms where I have put the batteries. This is not the final battery configuration because from the depths, batteries explode. This is merely a location to put them for the moment. Further back here, there's another layer of batteries and shock absorbers as well as heavy armor. And behind that heavy armor is our AI core. These batteries I have already tested and confirmed they are not explosive enough to breach this armor. So hitting these batteries will not destroy the ship. This is also not the final armor configuration for this room. But we have the main AI core in here. There's no backup core. There's no secondary core. This AI is not going to be set up that way just because of cost requirements. Again, I've made sure these batteries are weak enough that if they were to all chain detonate, they will not destroy the AI core through friendly fire testing. Lastly, the other engine compartment, and then the forward torpedo room, which is now entirely traversable from bottom of ship to the top. This is phase 9 out of 20. Let's keep going, shall we? Welcome to phase 10. I still haven't reconfigured these turrets, but at phase 10 we've now put in the initial laser system. These are secondary point defense and attack dual purpose lasers. These lasers will fire at cramshells. These lasers will fire at missiles. More importantly, these lasers will fire at the enemy as well. So these lasers are designed with their laser system I have put in to continue to function. I think I'm going the right way. Yep. So this laser system is designed to support these lasers with 2 Q switches each, so they're pulse lasers. And with enough power, roughly 300,000 available energy, and the massive recharge rate. These engines are set up in a quad configuration, so you have 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how these lasers are set up. And then each one of them faces a different direction with a single cavity and a 3-meter pump. So this one goes up, this one goes left for the 3-meter pump, this one goes down for the 3-meter pump, and this one goes right for the 3-meter pump. And these are the primary parts of this laser configuration. These are the big ones. These are the ones that have the most capacity and most charge. Then above them, I've done the same thing with the space I have to make 2 of these, and then I filled in all of the spaces I can with extra single capacitors with single laser pumps in order to fill this entire room with lasers. And that's just the secondary laser system, which is powering these two side lasers, one on each side, and this back laser back here. Let's get into the next phase. I've also started adding sensor equipment, so the AI knows where it is. It can't maneuver yet because I haven't programmed it yet, but it knows where it is at least. And it can see through the rangefinders and the top radar up there. This is phase 11. Now I've added on the airlock, the outer airlock system. You can walk through this. I haven't finished coloring it yet correctly because when I put down glass, I first color it so that I can see where I've put down glass, then I come back and make it clear again. I haven't done that for the internal part, but you walk out to here. Now this is going to be very different when I'm done, but I wanted to establish this airlock here and get everything set up for what's coming next. I've added where I want the LAMs, the laser anti-munitions. I've put them all on so I can see where I need to put them internally for the second laser system. We've also added our first secondary system. And if you have seen my USS Wisconsin, this is mostly the same gun. I just copied it from the Wisconsin and then added to it a little bit and then changed it to 6 barrels. So it's nice rapid fire 54 millimeter point defense cannon. The 54 millimeters are restricted strictly to be point defense. No, wait, they're dual purpose. So they will fire at both, they will fire dual purpose, which is kind of cool. I didn't realize I set these up to be dual purpose. That makes a lot more sense now. Anyway, let's continue with the build because that's most everything that's been added now. Was getting some more external stuff on. Phase 12. 12. Welcome to phase 12. Now at phase 12 point, we have added most of the cost. Almost all of the engines have been installed, including the secondary smaller engines to support the primary engines, the secondary smaller engines being set for pitch and push, whereas the primary engines are only set to be pushers. Further, we have established engines up here. We've started putting in AI equipment. You'll notice the laser defense system is no longer flashing red. That's because I have made the second laser system that will support the LAMs. Lastly are these side turrets. You'll notice that the airlocks have glass on top and have been changed. You're wondering why I would have to do all of that. Allow me to show you. Those turrets down there haven't been set yet, so they restrict their rotation. But these turrets are supposed to be ball turrets with full rotation. So they are. They are strictly set for CWIS. But man, they can shoot in any direction. Just name it. Both turrets are set for CWIS. Both the turret inside here has a CWIS controller, and the turret on top that is actually controlling the gun has a CWIS controller. They are designed for universal, any-directional CWIS, and I have extended their magazines, unlike the two turrets next to the lower bridge, in order to make them capable. The lower bridge is called the fire control bridge. I just remembered that. I also have not finished restricting turret movement, which is why we're getting warnings for, hey, this turret's blocked. When I'm done, we're going to be restricting their arcs so they don't overturn and therefore make themselves useless. Now let's get to the internals. You know, I just said that these don't seem to be flashing anymore. I think I've only set up... Oh, I haven't put in the laser system yet. Oh, okay. I'm stupid. Yeah, I think the laser system's next. My bad. Yeah, here's the laser for the dual-purpose turrets and the rear turret, I think. Yeah, that's that one still. I haven't set up the other two yet. Everyone just heard me say the other two and go, what do you mean the other two? What do you think these giant rubber rooms are for? Now, I'm a crazy person, if you can't tell. Welcome to Phase 13. Now, you'll see the armor incisions, and now I've actually set up the LAMs. Because you can see the armor incisions where I've been cutting into the armor to get them to to function. They're not connected yet, but I've started setting them in place. Further, up here on top, I have finished armoring. And internally, all of the internal armor is now painted its final coloration. So you can see, assuming I'm not floating around inside somewhere, that all of the armor now has its final paint job on the inside. I've also put on most of the layers of armor that are going on. It's not the final armor, but there is still places like over here that need to be accessible before I finish armoring them, and over here in the hangar wing that needs to be accessible. But for the most part, the main body of the ship has most of its armor plating, including the rear back here, which has already received its first 2 layers. Let's keep going to the next phase, because there's not a lot for this phase. It's just mostly extra engines and starting to put in the laser systems. I got kind of tired when building it at this point and just needed a break, so I called it phase 13 and moved on. Welcome to phase 14. All laser systems are finished, all 3 of them. So we have primary laser assault turrets on the side, 2 on each side. This way, no matter which broadside is facing, we're going to have 2 of these turrets opening fire. All of the laser defense systems have been given their own separate grid and linked to that grid. The laser system is fully installed except for one part, and that's the part on top. But you're going to see these have appeared now all over the ship. And you're going to see the different lasers firing to different locations. The lasers are actually on level 3 at the bottom of the ship. So just past the AI, we have this purple bulkhead now to show, so I can more easily find the AI when I'm looking internally in the ship and need to do something hastily. And then we have the assault primary battery. Further, we have up here in the green room the laser anti-munition system laser set up at 360,000. And lastly, we have the other laser battery I'd already built. I forget where I put it, but there's a third laser battery that's already been constructed. I think it's forward for the rear and secondary. There it is. For the rear and secondary turrets, we have this one back here, putting out the 290-500 you saw earlier. But yeah, we've put out all 3 laser systems are now established. We've also put the rest of our secondary battery that's actually gun in. We have these 80 mils on the side. We do anything's on top, basically, the top deck. I haven't finished the side decks because you can clearly see that there are still holes cut for turrets on the side decks, but we're getting there. Lastly, you'll notice there are a lot more holes in the hull for small and large, for engines. These are all large engines. This is just the escape vacuum hole, but this is so the ship can turn and maneuver better. We're still going to be putting in more engines as we go and finishing the turret armor. Let's move on to phase 15. I fixed my video. Anyway, this is phase 15. Yeah, I did all that recording and then realized, oh shit, I'm supposed to fix the stupid video. Fucking idiot. I'm dumb. Pardon my French, I'm dumb. I'm very dumb. I don't care about YouTube's policy, by the way. I'll say a couple curse words here and there. Not being edgy, just telling you I've always been this way. Anyway, we have our, what I call our primary secondary hitters. These are 180mm dual turrets. We have 4 of them, 2 on each side. They're at the back of the ship. These provide dual purpose anti-munition and also attack enemy ships. When these fire, they basically are here to shoot down large missiles. When they are not firing at missiles, they will empty their clips at enemy ships in order to deal additional damage. We have finished with the missile system up here entirely now and have added all the medium missiles in addition to the large missiles you saw earlier and made sure that they can all fire easy and are controlled by the Lua code. Most of them are controlled by the Lua code. Some of them are guided because reasons. I've also started adding munition warners to various sections of the ship to make sure that we can see incoming munitions. Let's get to the next phase because, oh boy, this gray hull is starting to irritate me. Welcome to phase 16. We haven't painted it yet. We haven't finished armor. We have finished most of the armoring because you'll look back here and see that this is now starting to get its armor plating. We've added additional armor plating where I feel like we need it. The rear of the ship has received its internal armor configuration and accessibility zones. That is to say, Rambot can run around here and access any part of the rear of the ship. And we've also added massive storage containers, which is what these hatches are for, is to access the storage containers back here. You'll notice that we now carry more than 1 million materials, and you'll see how quickly we're burning through them because of the steam engines. Steam engines are really expensive to run. I'm stating that now and for future reference. They're really expensive to run. We've also finished rounding it out and finished putting all of the armor I possibly can down here around these engines, because if these engines do get blown off, we are going to fall. Lastly, I've put in some secondary reverse thrusters and secondary forward thrusters hidden inside of the wings here. And I believe at the back of the ship now, it can move! Hey, it can go forward. Lastly, we have added the accessibility internally. The route I showed you at the beginning of the video for us to be able to access the ladders and get to the top of the damn ship. Oh, look what's at the top of the ship! Our third laser system fire! I'm kidding. No, there's 2 laser systems. One is powering these turrets back here, one is powering the turrets on the side, and one is powering the laser munition defense. Also inside the neck here, I have placed some small missiles. Again, you'll see they're on Lua receivers. This is to just add a little bit of extra firepower to the ship and give this neck of the turret something to shoot back with as a offensive system. Since most aircraft will be attacking from up here, smaller craft in particular will try to get above the ship, and knowing that, having small missiles on the side of the ship to engage those small craft is usually a good idea. These don't add that much firepower, but they will deal with things like fighters. Okay, we're at phase 17. At phase 17, we've added some extra rear engines on the side. The AI is now functioning and able to drive itself. As you can see, the ship is now powering itself up to its combat altitude of 175 meters, entirely on its own. We have programmed the AI to believe it is a boat, because I'm going to be honest, that's kind of the easiest level of programming I can do. I don't know how to do breadboards yet, and every time I look at them, they hurt my head. Where the hell did I put that AI? So we have programmed the AI here to believe in... Oh, no, it's a hover maneuver. Never mind. I figured out how to make it do hover. We have projectile avoidance programmed in. This is programmed only to dodge cram cannons. It won't dodge anything smaller than a cram. So missiles is just basically, you're going to have to shoot them down. And its current behaviors are broadside. You set it to use this if you're fighting in atmosphere. If you're fighting out of atmosphere, you switch it to point at, which is why it says space point at. And you can do that very simply by coming in here and changing its hover altitude from 175 to 1800. Anyway, for manual flight, because of that, you will also want to turn the PIDs on if you want to fly it manually. So for that purpose, we also have a PID set to 180. You'll want to set this to 1800 and the AI to 1800 separately if you want it to remain out of atmosphere. I still have the helium pumps in here because I want to make sure the ship is staying steady. Those are coming out very soon. Also, in this state, the ship is now ready for combat trials. It's important to stop before you paint and do combat trials. Now, I've already finished the combat trials. We've installed all the AI sensor equipment, but the combat trials are basically, I put this ship against a variety of different enemies, one-on-one, and then a variety against different enemies, 2v1 and 3v1, until I have found ways to repeatedly break it and found its upper limit. Further, while these combat trials are happening, I will often pause and take notes. What do I mean by take notes? What sections of the armor are getting penetrated by the enemy? What sections of the armor are the AI focusing on? Why are they focusing on those sections? what sections of the armor might need to be reinforced, what things might be out of place and need to be relocated. All of those things that need to be broken down and tested. Technically up here, like, I haven't actually remembered to replace this armor yet. So this is not entirely ready for testing. Welcome to phase 18. This is painted in fleet colors. These are my fleet colors. The green, the lavender green, the teal blue, pure white, and the jet black. These are just my fleet colors. The yellows are there for Gundam colors because Gundam insists that certain things have to be gold regardless. So I did that. If you load this ship up on your own computer, it will change to your fleet colors for you. At this point, we are post-combat testing. Those combat trials have revealed weaknesses and cheeks in the armor, as well as things that were missing, such as these massive turret joysticks. You'll notice now that there is this plate of heavy armor plate right here on the outside of the hull. And internally, there is additional heavy armor components throughout this area to protect the AI even further, because the AI was knocked out. And I'm like, why is the AI getting knocked out? And I had to figure it out. Further back here, you'll notice that there is more heavy armor plating here between this laser system and the AI room. That is to make it where there is less of a chance of you somehow getting a lucky shot through here, punching through all the batteries and the laser system and everything, and punching into the AI room and managing to kill it. Again, armor is not a guarantee, it is a chance. You'll notice that I've also put in the shield systems, which I've colored in a way that makes them very subtle and not as graphically intensive on your machine. But the entire ship, every single turret, every single part is now shielded from incoming fire. We've put in additional sensor equipment in case the primary sensor equipment that was initially installed gets knocked out. So you'll notice there's these little sensor clusters that are painted in black on my trim color. There's just extra sensor clusters. You'll notice that there is a way to access this part of the ship. There are handrails. There's access up here. You can come out of here and walk down here, because I realized that if I have a sensor cluster out here, someone's going to have to walk out here, and someone needs to walk out here to paint this. Again, external, internal access all over the ship. One of my rules, as a part of going around the ship, Rambot has to be able to access the entire vessel. And I've gone through the trouble of doing that. You'll notice I've started putting in decorations. We have a pilot house right here. Down here, we have a sensor and battle comm center. Down here, we have another sensor and battle comm center. Over here, we have air traffic control and sensor equipment installed already. I've put handrails throughout the ship. You'll notice that the ship is not very flat anymore. We have paint everywhere. We have a lower traffic control center, and above it we have a command bridge complete with captain's chair. I'm not very good at mimics yet, so nothing on here is a mimic. Matter of fact, if I go over here, there's no mimics. This is all actual, just in-game stuff. I don't know how to do mimics very well yet. It took me like hours on the Wisconsin. And when I say hours, it was like an entire day of work to do the mimics on the Wisconsin. So I said, yeah, don't really want to do that. We've put in all of the ability to traverse this ship as much as possible, and made sure all of the handrails. I really like what you see is what you get as well. That's why I don't use a lot of mimics. You notice I missed a painting here. Haven't quite got to it yet. We'll get to it eventually. But at this point, this ship would be considered 99% complete. Now that it's painted and everything else has been added, we do secondary combat trials, because I've added a bunch of stuff from primary combat trials. You notice this turret now has been lifted up and has a large barbette. This one's barbette is just the entire hull down here, but this turret now has its own barbette to help protect it a little bit more. These plasma turrets have their own barbettes. This Big Bertha turret has had its barbette enlarged, and it's actually been moved forward one block. These turrets have had their barrels extended. These turrets have all had their turret rotations restricted. And lastly, down here, in order to access this, I made a catwalk. an actual catwalk in order to access over here. And I put airlocks on both sides. Not because I expect that if you shoot at these air traffic control centers, that they're going to last very long. But, you know, on a real ship, these would have airlocks. So the sections would be separated. They'd also probably have chairs in here so you could sit down comfortably even though we're in gravity. Let's move on to phase 19. Alright, this is phase 19. This is for people who have ridiculous computers. All of the air pumps are still installed. And we have core fighters over here on the side. There are actually 4 of these, and one of the things that I have set up here is down in here. There are 4 ACBs. Let me get to those real quick so you can see them. So these are 4 ACBs. When an enemy is spotted, it sets the distance to 65 and 100 so that the core fighters won't collide, and then the ACB controlling the one at 100 releases first, and 10 seconds later the ACB controlling the one at 65 releases, and they release sequentially. So you'll release fighter 1 at 10 seconds, you'll release fighter 2 at 25 seconds, you release fighter 3 at 40 seconds, you release fighter 4 at the first minute. These are actually made to look like the core fighters from Gundam. They are just as terrible as core fighters from Gundam because they have the endurance of absolutely not, and they are expensive. They're 50,000 each. But I did make them. I did make them work. I made sure that they could function in Atmo and in space. So there you go. You got your core fighters, Gundam fans. This is not the version that I'm recommending people use. This is just the version that came first. Lastly, we've added some additional access panels and access ways so you can crawl down to these turrets. You can't get into them from the outside because there's no way for me to add that reasonably, but you can in fact come out here and access this area now and use it to climb up here. You will have to dodge this turret's cannons on this side, but on this side you have free access. What I should probably do is move that ladder, but I'm not going to, just to irritate people. We've also installed additional armor layering everywhere. So behind these main battery laser turrets is just thick ass plate before you get to the plasma turrets back here. Again, I'm sure that my turret Tetris or something else is out of place and could be made better. That's fair. I'm not going to argue with you guys because many people have been playing this game for longer than I have or have a better idea of how to do turret Tetris. I have no idea why those guns up here are not matching, but I think you are. Yeah, you two are. Huh. Maybe there's a misplaced connection on this one. But I've also now fixed this turret's armor. Okay, let's get to the final product. The part you've all been waiting for, that you've been waiting for about 40 minutes to see. The final ship. Coming in at a massive 3.06 million. Complete with repair bots and repair tentacles for fleet support action, as well as self-maintenance, in addition to thick-ass armor. I don't add the repair bots until the very end because I want to see what the ship can do without them. Further, additional sensor equipment has been added all over the vessel. The core fighters have been removed due to them being mostly ineffective, and I want this ready for campaign use, though this section of the ship where they were placed is free and open. So if you have core fighters you want to put in, the space is there. Go ahead. I'm not going to stop you. And if someone wants to help me, again, figure out how to make mechs work, I'm willing to sit down and build a fucking Gundam and give it to this thing. I'm still having some trouble figuring out how mechs work. Lastly, a final door has been placed here on the back of the ship so you can access this rear turret, because I noticed that was an oversight. And inside of the rear section of the ship, we have placed additional armor. Lots of it. Over many segments. And we've placed secondary ammunition sections throughout the ship, so there's more than one ammo compartment in the event the ammo is destroyed entirely. There are now 3 ammo compartments, each one again made with that I showed you earlier, and the entire ship works and functions on its own. How do I know it works and functions on its own? I'm about to show you, because we've got to the end of the video now. I don't need to see health bars. Let's spawn something in. So, the reason why I made this ship is because of this thing. Let's see how long a pike lasts. That does not look good, Mr. Pike. You seem to have angered the wrong person. I got really pissed off at this thing. Really upset. As you might imagine, no amount of evasion is going to dodge those missiles, sir. Every one of those is going to find their target. And there's nothing you can do about it. Oh, nope. Oh, well, it's trying to re-engage. We did have a miss. I stand corrected. Occasionally one will miss, though it will turn around and try to re-engage. As you can see from this missile actually making the turn to try to re-engage. Don't forget about me! The pike's already dead, it seems. Yeah, it's dead. It's taken too much damage. So, campaign update for this week. As of right now, we have Magellan has pushed into the Onyx Watch. They are all the way back at the Onyx Throne. We are ready to have Magellan push the Onyx Throne. Further, the Deepwater Guard has vastly expanded their territory against the Onyx Watch and has actually been helping us. The fucking Scarlet Dawn actually showed up. The Lightning Hoods have been pushed all the way back, away from our territory, thanks to the efforts of the USS Wisconsin. Who is being escorted by the remnants of our former fleet. As you can see, she's also painted in fleet colors. We've also added another ship that I designed, the Dreadnoughticus. It is equipped with 3 twin 500mm railgun turrets that are of French design, in addition to a absolute insane level of point defense and close-in weapon system units across it. And again, like my ship design says, you have to be able to access every part of the ship. So you can walk around this vessel from head to toe. You'll notice in the description that you can download the USS Wisconsin, Dreadnoughticus, and the Magellan. Those are free to everyone. Dreadnoughticus also packs these massive forward torpedoes, just in case. And a series of medium and small missiles on the side. I think these are radar seekers, and it has infrared seekers as well as these laser systems, which are down in here. And Dreadnoughticus is actually a pretty damn good ship for 700,000. Her guns are not set up as dual purpose, by the way. These secondaries are purely Sea Whiz. This is the ship designed to float in and just get pounded. Meanwhile, the Wisconsin, who is for some reason having a listing issue that should fix itself in a second. I'm guessing a wave hit it. The Wisconsin does have dual purpose turrets all over it. So these are dual purpose. These are Sea Whiz only, the black ones, and the white ones are offense only. But the blue and green ones are true dual purpose turrets and will fire both at incoming and at enemy ships. Also, I went out of the way with the Wisconsin and added some mannequins. This is my first time adding mannequins, and I thought it very appropriate that this man be doing a Riker maneuver. I couldn't quite get the proportions right, but by God, I got it done. I stole the idea from the Megalodon's captain here. We have this guy turned around talking. We have every sonar guy in every movie ever. We have the rookie who is trying his best to steer the ship, and we have the guy who just got shot for no reason. Everybody liked him. This is also a turreted rangefinder back here. And again, I didn't use a ton of mimicry on the Wisconsin. The turrets have a lot of mimicry on them, but most of this is what you see is what you get. And also, you can access every part of the ship via doors walking around. The Wisconsin is supported by helium pumps, however, because building a 1-to-1 scale Wisconsin and getting it to float in this game was just a little too hard for me. Lastly, I may have added some things the Wisconsin didn't have, such as the forward strategic radar dish and laser turrets and a laser defense grid. And oh look, are those hidden huge torpedoes because I had space and could? Yes they are. Don't judge me. The Wisconsin will set you back 2.1 million. And if you can see from our previous video, just to give you a size scale comparison, this is our fleet from the previous video. These are our little escort corvettes. This is our little frigate that's been heavily modified, reinforced, and changed to make it even more functional. It comes in at 169,000, which is about the expense of Monsito Pants' little guy. But this definitely packs more firepower and a little bit better survivability, if somewhat being slower. And lastly, I used the Laco. I extended the hull, widened it, put some extra decorations on it. This one is attempting to pop a wheeler for some reason. That is beyond me right now. And it has some extra missile launchers, and on the back I doubled up on the octuple 40 mils. It comes in at 32,000. All of these ships are now available on the workshop in the link below, and you can download all of them. But that's the overall campaign update. I'm going to now let you guys have some highlights from that campaign. And again, I'm sorry, but the new Patreon video is still under construction. I'm going to have it ready this week. I just want to make sure you guys are aware of what's going on and things like that. Lastly, in order to avoid having to do resupply manually, I have been constructing, as I can, these fortresses in place of our Discount Dan flying merchants. These are the Fuck-Offistan Fortress. Fuck-Offistan! They pack missile interceptors up here, as well as laser defense grids and sighting equipment on top. And then they pack these turrets. These are 150 millimeter, 180 round per minute turrets. All of them, I believe, are firing Sabo HE, are firing either Sabo or Thump. Oh, they're firing hollow points. They're all firing hollow point HE. So they are literally armor strippers. They just strip you apart piece by piece until they rip you apart. These things, this fortress can fight almost everything. There's only about 4 ships in the game this fortress cannot stop. And they are just designed to sit here and perpetually turn resources into commodities. That's all they do. They just turn resources into commodities and tell people to fuck off, I don't want any. They're very expensive at 2.7 million each. But hey, who am I to judge? We've had to destroy like multiple basilicas and a fuckload of Lightning Hoods ships, and the Lightning Hoods keep sending stuff on top of the Grey Talon stuff that we've had to blow up and destroy. And it's just like, well, we have tons of resources now from, killing stuff even at 1% because I've killed over 200 vehicles. None of which were less than 100,000. I need an adult. This is a really hard campaign. But yeah, these fortresses are designed to basically sit here and tell everyone this is ours, go away.
Listening.
So that's what we've been doing. We've heavily established ourselves in this area. The resource nodes that are worth it, I have put fortresses on. Those are the ones that still have plenty of reserve. And the fortress is now working to convert that reserve into commodities at 85 to 90% efficiency. And I use those commodities to resupply things like the Magellan or the Wisconsin to continue pushing. This is our old fleet here as well, with our little laser Valkyns, frigates, just corvettes, and cutters, all sitting here to make sure the Lightning Hoods don't try anything else until the next council meeting in about 3 hours. But yeah, start a stream today. We're going to go take out the Onyx Throne, because Magellan's got a bone to pick, and it ain't going to be pretty. Anyway, see you all then, and thank you for staying for the campaign update. Have a good night, and again, the new Patreon video is still under construction.